number of images here, just to give you an example. This image was actually taken quite a number of years ago in Kyoto in Japan, and I love this image. It's just beautiful, the lovely saturated orangey red colours mixed in with the Japanese script is fantastic, and I think it gives me a great feeling of depth as you feel you could walk essentially right into the picture. So really like it. I've actually got a big print of this in my front room. Let's just take a look at a few other ones. This image was taken up in Hangzhou, just west of Shanghai. I visited there a couple of years ago. This was taken very, very early in the morning, about 6 AM in the morning on West Lake, which is a very famous lake in Hangzhou, and it's absolutely stunning at that time of the day. Another good reason to get up and capture that beautiful soft light of dawn, and of course at this time of the day the water is absolutely still, flat, calm. I came back here after walking around the lake. It took me about 3 hours. I walked back to the lake later about 10 o'clock in the morning, and it was completely covered in waves and ripples, and certainly didn't look the same at all. So again, it's another great recommendation to get out of your bed early and capture the best of the dawn. Well, I really couldn't show you photographs or some sample photographs from my portfolio without showing you a little bit of my home country. This shot was taken in Scotland, west coast of Scotland. This is the very famous Eilean Castle. It's been shot in many different movies. Now, having lived in Scotland for many years and travelled past this castle, I've always been very disappointed because it's usually raining or cloudy, and I was there a number of, this was about 2 years ago, I visited Scotland, and driving down the coast I passed the castle, and there it was, absolutely perfect, still flat water, beautiful blue sky. So really nice image, I thought, and one to keep. And again, I've got a print of that sitting downstairs in my
looks
bar.
Great. I mean, it looks right out of like Lord of the Rings.
Well, yeah, but this castle has been used for many different movie sets. Certainly not Lord of the Rings, but yeah, I love these kind of ancient monuments, and there's plenty of those in Scotland. Oh, here we go. This is a little bit more up to date. A number of months ago, I did a trip to Bali. I've been to Bali many times. As I mentioned before, it's a tremendous location for photography. Just love the place, and this is a favourite walk of mine in central Bali, in the little town of Ubud. There's a lovely walk through the rice paddies that I've done a number of times, and again, this was a trip where a walk I did through the rice paddies. I just took my 5D with a 40mm pancake lens. That was all I took, and I got some tremendous images that day, and it just seems the perfect lens for, in this particular case, a portrait of one of the guys working in the rice paddies, and I think that came out tremendously well. I really appreciated that. This is a more recent shot I took. There was a little project I've been putting together really around the rivers, the Klang and the Gombak in KL. KL, as we know, is a city that's built up around those two rivers, and I wanted to put together a number of images trying to capture these rivers and the city around it. And it's quite interesting when you actually get right down essentially in the drain next to the river. I managed to capture some rather interesting images of the KL city with the river. I mentioned to you a short while ago, I made a return trip to Cambodia just a number of weeks ago, and it's just a fabulous place for photography. And this was the first day we got there. I arrived there and I wanted to go out to Angkor Thom, which is a huge area, about 3 kilometres by 3 kilometres square, which is just full of temples. And arriving at the south gate, as we see here, lo and behold, there's this absolutely stunning 2 boats here, obviously used to ferry tourists up and down the moat that's here. And I just think this captured the scene perfectly, and it kind of had I thought, a very historic kind of view of the temple area, the south gate here with the boats. only spot by the small fact of the two modern life jackets sitting in the boat, which I was almost tempted to wade out and remove before I took the image. But a lovely shot all the same, lovely light. This was a late afternoon shot. And again, this is one of my favourite spots in Cambodia. This is the Ta Prohm Temple, very famous for the Tomb Raider movie. And I've taken images of this before. This is another image I took just a matter of weeks ago, a little bit post-processing. This is again a high dynamic range photograph, I think 5, perhaps 7 bracketed shots put together and then converted to black and white, which I think really gives a very atmospheric view of this wonderful old tumble down temple walls with the tree growing up through it. And similarly, again, this is Ta Prohm again. I couldn't resist taking a number of, you know, atmospheric shots of these wonderful trees. And again here, an HDR shot which really managed to pull in a number of different exposed areas. There was a very large dynamic range in a scene like this, from the dark shadows down at the lower portion up to the very, very bright sky. And I think that's managed to pull together quite nicely into a nice black and white shot. And managed on this occasion, this is again in Angkor Thom, this is the West Gate, and a very an area that's not visited by many tourists. And I took the opportunity, I actually walked from the South Gate 3 kilometres up to the West Gate here, and again this gives a wonderful atmospheric, almost real historic kind of view of this wonderful old temple complex as it sits in the middle of the jungle. And this shot actually I just took just a number of days ago, a couple of days ago. I took a visit to someplace here in Malaysia I've always wanted to visit. This is just south of Ipoh, and there's a wonderful old restored tin dredge. As we know, Malaysia is very well known for tin mining. Many years ago, and there's a number of these dredges were used to dredge up the gravel and the stones to extract the tin. And there's a wonderful restored tin dredge sitting just south of Ipoh, south of Batu Gajah. So I took the opportunity to visit there and took quite a number of shots inside and outside this dredge. And you'll see here it's quite a grungy looking shot. This is a style I've kind of moved into recently. And this really particularly focuses on using high dynamic range photography. You can appreciate a scene like this in a very dark industrial type of environment where we've got very dark shadows down here, very bright light, highlights coming in through the external part of the structure here. So a very difficult image to capture, and basically you ask yourself the normal question is, what are you going to expose for? If you expose for the shadowy area of the lower portion here, this area out here is going to be totally blown out and overexposed. And if you expose for this area, you're going to see none of the detail down in the corner here because it's going to be totally in shadows. And that's one of the big advantages of high dynamic range, is being able to pull out detail from all of these different exposed areas of the photograph. And I think this works rather well and post-processed using Photomatics Pro for high dynamic range, and then I've used the Perfect Effects application from On1 software to add a little bit of grunginess to it and enhance some of the colours and bring out some of the detail, particularly around that large hook in the foreground.